Cassidy, and welcome to Garden Style. So I thought I'd start this video out at the nursery because we have been extremely busy over the last couple of weeks as we're starting to gear up for spring. But here in the Northwest, we start to get things like fruit trees in really early, and I just thought I would flip this around and show you the before picture as we were completely empty. We've also gotten a brand new load of soil and compost, but out here things have filled up. These mats were completely empty and now we're full. we're ready for fruit trees. So anyway, just thought I would come out here real quick and show you what we're up to here at the nursery. I'm going to finish this video on starting seeds indoors at the house, because I figure as most of us as homeowners, that's usually where we're starting them, right? I've got lots of facilities here for starting seeds, but I also like to start my own at the house. And so I'm going to show you my process. There are probably a bazillion different ways you can start seeds indoors, but there are certain things we have to do and keep in mind here in the Northwest when we get started. So here we are in February, and I'm starting seeds, especially cold crops, things like lettuce, spinach, kale, all those types of seeds you can start right now inside. And I will show you my process and what I've had real success with for starting seeds indoors. And I'll just quit babbling here and get myself home, and we'll pick up the rest of this in my kitchen. And I'll show you the process that I go through. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm here at home, and before I take you inside and get started with my process and show you all the things that I'm doing, when you go to start seeds indoors, there's definitely an initial investment that you need to make before you get started. And you'll see that when I take you inside. And you need your grow lights, you need the trays, you need the seeds, you need the soil, heat mat, which helps me greatly to get things started. But once you've made that initial investment, you've got it. And then it just gets easier and easier with each passing year. Now, when you're going to start seeds indoors, a lot of folks put a lot of their seeds and everything in the windows. Here in the Northwest, when we are pressed for light, especially at this time of the year, I don't recommend it. I haven't had as good a luck doing that during the winter time as I have had with a grow light and starting it, in the garage or, somewhere inside the house. You could probably start sowing indoors in a window in March when we start to get a little bit more light, especially if you have a great, south or west facing window. Those of you who are blessed with a greenhouse, hallelujah, more power to you. If you're able to keep some heat inside the greenhouse. But when it comes to starting seeds indoors, I just highly recommend just make the initial investment, get yourself the grow light, get a heat mat, especially if you're starting them in the garage like I am, or maybe out in a garden shed is another great place to plug something in and start your seeds. But I just wanted to throw that little blurb in before I get going, just to let you know that here in February, believe it or not, as far north as we are, where I live, we're only about 2 hours away from the Canadian border. When we are this far north, we start to receive, now I read this just the other day, 60 to 80 minutes of daylight within the month of February, believe it or not. That's almost an hour and a half within 28 days. That's crazy. That's insane. But that's how it works here. We get super, super dark during the winter time, and then we start to incur more and more light, and we really start to feel it and notice it in February. And I think that's why we start to get super busy too, is people are like, oh my gosh, I actually got a little daylight now that I get home from work. I got some time I can spend out in the yard. But whether that's true or not, I'm kind of feeling it. And this is just something I read in an article that's like, wow, really? Almost an hour and a half of daylight within 28 days. That's craziness. And that's about 3, maybe 4 minutes a day. And it just gets to be more and more and more as we get closer to the spring equinox in March. And as you all know, once we get into the summertime, it's woohoo time, because by the time we get to June and July, It's not dark until 10:30 at night. I know, it's crazy. So those are the extremes we're looking at. But I just wanted to throw in the blurb about putting your seedlings in a windowsill. I'm okay with it as long as you feel you're getting enough light, but you do take a chance on your seedlings getting kind of leggy when you do that, which is why I like using a grow light, because then it's more consistent, they're strong, and of course I'll get more into that as the seeds start to germinate. So anyway, quick blurb for you. So as you saw at the beginning of the video, there's all kinds of supplies for starting seeds. But I'm going to try and keep this as basic and as simple as possible, because that's just what I'm about, just keeping things simple. So I'm showing you now a grow light that I purchased just this year. I was way overdue for a new one. And I found this one online. It's an AgroBright, and it's a 2-foot fixture, but it's made so that you can daisy chain them together. And I'll give you a close-up as to what that looks like when we get to that point. But it's a T5 and it's 4,000 lumens. Now I could get real scientific as to, all the light spectrums that you need to have for growing seeds, but this one covers the gamut. And I learned about this particular fixture through Epic Gardening. He was sweet enough to go through and do all the scientific research on the type of fixtures. And this is what he uses to start his seeds, although his are like a 4-foot, seed starting light fixtures that daisy chain. I mean, he's got quite the system. For me, I just start enough seeds during the cold winter months like February going into March just to get me started, because I actually prefer to do direct sowing. But in this case, I am anxious to get some lettuce and spinach going. And then down here, I also just picked up a seedling heat mat. The one I had was too small, and I like this one, and I will be hooking that up as well. And all these will be going on a timer. Well, at least the light fixture. I keep the heat mat on all the time. And then I always use these cells right here. And this is who I got it from. This is Jiffy, but there's a whole bunch of different vendors out there that carry these. And I like it because it's just a cool kit. It comes with the cells themselves. They're all kind of attached. Right underneath it, you're going to see the actual dome that goes over the top of it, sits in the tray. And then you have a solid tray here, which captures all the water. And I have just found that this is the easiest system to use. Those just fit right in there, and makes it real simple. And then your seed mix or your seed starter mix is probably the most important ingredient other than the seeds themselves. And I use a spoma. This is an organic seed starter. And I just love it because it's light, it's fluffy, it's super easy to work with, it's sterile, so you don't have to worry about any type of weed seeds or strange diseases getting in on your seedlings, because that's the hardest part. This is the most crucial part, is getting them started and then keeping them going afterwards. So yeah, highly recommend a spoma. There are lots of seed mixes out there. Just read the directions on the back and what it consists of. This one here, you can find just about anywhere as a seedling starting mix, but this has got great ingredients in it, primarily Canadian peat moss, perlite, yucca extract, not quite sure what that's all about, and also a mycotone or mycorrhizae, which certainly helps with the seedlings and giving them the nutrients that they need when they first get started. Now, the kit itself also came with some labels and Super Thrive, which is just a basic general purpose fertilizer that you can use. And I don't really apply this until I actually have seen the seeds sprout. Your seeds have enough energy in them to at least get themselves above the ground. And then after that, we can do some things to hurry them along, so to speak. So these are the seeds I'm going to be planting today. I chose a baby spinach and lettuce mix. I've done this lettuce mix before and I really like it because it's all different types of lettuces, which gives you a really nice, pretty, colorful salad. And these are Ed Hume. I've also had really good luck with Territorial. I've used Renee's seeds. I've used Botanical Interests, but they're all fantastic seeds for the Northwest. Ed Hume happens to be very, very local. He's been producing seeds forever and a day, and I've always had really good luck with them. Their main seed factory is down in Oregon, which has similar conditions to us here in Washington in the Northwest. But they're guaranteed to grow. I've always had really good luck with them, as well as with Territorial. Territorial is a favorite of mine because I can find some unusual seeds when it comes to vegetables, especially. Now, I'm starting vegetables today. I am also going to be starting some annuals as well as perennial seeds this year, but those are going to come a little later. These I know once they come up and I harden them off, which I'll go over once we get to that point, I can put these in the ground right away, and then I can start a whole nother process. So I don't start too many at one time because, as you know, I own a business and it's hard to keep up. So let me show you what I do to plant seeds. Here we go. Okay, so I'm hoping this is light and bright enough to where you folks can see. It's always tricky trying to get your equipment set up so you can do this. The first thing, of course, is I'm going to put the seed mix in. You can see it's very dry to start with. We will water this as soon as we get them all filled. This is just that time of the year. I start to get so excited. It's nice to touch soil again. It really is. Our weather here has actually been pretty mellow. We had a couple nights the other night where it got below freezing. But this coming week, it looks like we're going to be in the low to mid 50s, which is spring weather for us here in the Northwest. That's really warm. So it's gotten a lot busier at the nursery this past week just because the weather is warmer. And it's just getting to that point where we got to start thinking about planting again, which is always fun. So this, of course, is the messiest part of the whole process, but to be expected when you're working with soil. And I just continue to keep filling up the cells until the soil is pretty level with the top, just like that. Making a mess, that's all right. That's why we're here in the kitchen. It's warm in here. Now I have to set up my seed racks out in the garage just because I have a couple of kitties who get a little nosy, and I've had them get into my things before. So I put it out in the garage where they don't have free access to the seeds. There we go. So you will notice that there's perlite and all kinds of organic material in here, and that just helps with the drainage in there, but it's still very light. And if I see some large twigs or a few big things that are in there, I just kind of pick those off the top there. You don't have to, it's just me and my ADD, I guess. You know, you just want it to look good. And of course, get the little babies off to a good start. Okay. So now, the next thing I'm going to do is put this in the sink, and I just completely soak the entire tray. And I just drain out the excess water out of the tray. Okay. Of course, watering it is so fluffy, it just fluffs right out. So I just take a spoon, I just smooth it all out. All right. Okay, so everything's well soaked. Just want to check the bottom here, make sure I don't have a whole lot of excess water in the bottom, and I don't, so we ended up draining all that out. Now, I'll start off with the spinach seeds. Always read the back of the package. This one will take approximately a couple of weeks, 10 to 14 days to germinate. Might be faster than that since I have a heat mat underneath. So I just pour a little into my hand here, like you see there. And I usually put about 2 to 3 seeds in each section. And you'll notice that I'm not going to poke them in. And the reason I put a couple, 2 or 3 in each one is if one doesn't make it, you at least got a couple more chances for them to come up. So at least 2 or 3 per section. And if they all end up coming up, great. I just will either thin them out later or just plant them directly into the ground. And you notice I'm just setting these on top. I'm not pushing them in. Your smaller seeds like lettuce, spinach, only require about 1/4 inch of soil on top. And that is something I will add here in a minute. Once I am done seeding my sections here. Might end up with 4 on that one. That's okay. And I don't usually use up all of my seeds, especially these. These I just bought this year because I do a lot of planting in the fall as well. That is an advantage we have here in the Northwest, is our spring and fall is the best time for planting seeds. And with cool season crops like spinach and lettuce, kale, carrots, radishes, I don't normally pre-seed my root crops like radishes and carrots. Those I direct sow into the ground just because they are a root crop and they just require a lot more room to grow down. And if you refer to your planting chart, which I will flash it there for you while I'm doing the rest of these, you will see that a lot of your direct sowing really isn't going to happen until March or April. Our last frost date here in Zone 8, here in the Northwest, is, they claim it's April 1st. I actually say it's April 15th. I have seen frost all the way until then, and that's what we're trying to avoid when we go to seed. Plant our seeds out in the garden to avoid that frost, because that'll, of course, zap them in a heartbeat. But if you're trying to get an early start, this is a great way to do it. Now I'm putting in lettuce seeds. These are even finer yet than the spinach seeds. And I'm going to do these on the back half. Now lettuce is super easy because you know you're cutting it when you bring it in. But I like to start the first crop and get it going early. And by the time these are actually ready to harvest, I'm already direct sowing more of it into my spring garden. And that's usually at the end of March, beginning of April, depending on the weather. I just pinch some and just plant them in there, sprinkle them on top. And again, I save my lettuce seeds too, some of them for fall, so I can plant them again. Just like that. Just a few more. Whoops. A few more lettuce. Now February, I can probably go over some of the to-do list for February. Other than getting your seeds started indoors, cleanup is really important. Now some people don't believe in cleanup in the spring. You know, a lot of them like to leave their leaves and things on the ground. I don't recommend it, especially this far north. with all the rain that we get here, I like to pick up the debris and the leaves out of my gardens to avoid disease and critters, insects, bugs, diseases. With the wet weather that we have here, it's just better if you can start cleaning up the gardens and getting them ready. Okay, so we've gotten that first layer in there, and now all I'm going to do is take some of the seed mix and I just kind of sprinkle it on top, just a real thin coating. That's all you're going to need. Get them covered like so. And you notice I'm not mashing down the soil or compacting it. You want those little guys to be able to get their roots in as easily as possible. So I'm basically creating an incubator for my seeds. I'll just give it an easy pat there just to make sure it doesn't blow off of there when I go to mist it. And there's a little bit of perlite in here, but not a lot. You don't want a whole lot of hard rocks and things in there to get in the way of your seedlings coming up. Well, they're pretty tough little buggers. They'll push through just about anything. Okay, so I just kind of lightly pat it, smooth it out, just like that. Now, the cool thing with this Jiffy kit is they give you these little labels in there, which is kind of fun. And so I know on this back half it's all spinach, and here I know I have a lettuce. So I'm just going to mark these front ones here so I know the difference. But how fun is that? So now I have two different kinds in here. Okay. Okay, so I got my labels in, and now I'm just going to go through with a mister and lightly mist the top so it's damp. You can go over it one more time here. Okay. All right. And now, the easy part. Now I put a dome on the top, just like this. And there you go, built-in greenhouse incubator, and now we're going to slide it in underneath the grow light. Okay, you can see I have my grow light hooked up here, and I actually have hooks underneath these wire shelves that I use anyway here in the garage, and I just clean off a shelf and turn it into a little growing area. And you can see the heat mat sitting there underneath. Now you may not require a heat mat if you're doing this in the house, but I'm out here in the garage, and I just want to make sure the temperature stays even, and it just helps with germination. And so I've got my seedling tray here, and I'm just sliding it right over the heat mat underneath the grow light just like that. And you will see that it's about, the dome itself is about 3, maybe 4 inches from the light fixture itself. You can see that. And once I start to see the seeds sprout, then I remove the dome. But right now it's creating its own little environment. It'll heat up in there. It'll get kind of misty. And I don't have to, worry about misting the seeds as much to get them to germinate. Now, of course, there's some extra heat down on the bottom. So, of course, I'll be out here checking them. And I put my light fixture on a timer for about 16 hours a day and let it turn off. Some people have it on 24/7. I don't feel a need to do that. I just leave it on for about 16 hours and the timer itself will turn it off. But now we just hurry up and wait. So in about 10 to 12 days, I hope to be doing a follow-up video to show you how all the seeds are doing and what the next steps will be when we get to that point. So there you go. I'm going to take you on a little trip too outside and show you what I'm doing out in the vegetable garden to get it ready for all my seedlings here, how to harden them off, that kind of thing. But I'll show you what I've done in the fall to prepare my vegetable beds and what I'll be doing now while I'm waiting for these little guys to germinate. I'll be busy outside getting my vegetable beds ready. So hopefully it's not pouring rain. I can take you out there real quick. Yay, it's not raining. So you kind of look at the top of this bed and you go, wow, what a mess. But I actually put all those pine needles and everything. The pine cones just kind of landed there themselves because we have so many fir trees here. But I actually raked up a lot of the fir and pine needles and I put them in the bed to protect the soil. And this is why. Look at that. Rich, black, gorgeous composted soil. Now, later, when I get ready to transplant those seedlings, out here in the garden, I will show you what I do here. But basically, I rake off this top layer right here. And what that does here in the Northwest is it protects the top of the soil from just getting beaten to death during the wintertime, just because we receive so much rain. Snow, ice, whatever. It just helps protect the soil underneath. And you will find with all the rain that we have here in the Northwest, it can literally wash the nutrients right on out of the soil. So by protecting it this way, you can use leaf mulch, pine needles, whatever you've got that's handy. That actually helps dissipate the rain so it's not just beating the soil to death, but at the same time, it's also keeping weed seeds and things out at the same time. So later, when I go to condition the beds and get them ready, you can add composted chicken manure, horse manure, fish, whatever it is you find out there that's available to you. And I actually mix some of that back into the soil. That's replacing some of the nutrients that actually got washed out. And then I'll use the Garden Tone by Espoma. I'll mix some of that in before I start putting all my seedlings in. And I'll definitely get more in depth on that when we get to that point. We've got a good 2 weeks yet, if not 3 or 4, before I'll be raring to go for that. But just wanted to show you what I do in my veggie beds, and all mine are raised beds, which I prefer just because they warm up faster during the springtime, and the sooner they can get warmer, the better. And it also keeps critters like rabbits and things like that out. So there you go. Now there's all kinds of ways you can start seeds. A lot of people use these peat pellets, and I've used these myself in the past. I find them to be very effective. You can see there's already a hole in it. But I find for really fine seeds, these are kind of tricky to use because you can take the chance of planting them too deep unless you put some sort of a seed mix inside the hole before you plant the seeds themselves. And these you can row up in a tray, or you can find them already in a tray when you go to purchase a kit. But I've still found that the plastic cells work the best for me. And I like the cells because I can reuse them. I just bought a new kit this year, but my last kit lasted me the last 2 or 3 years. So you can do a peat pellet like this. And I showed you the before picture when it was completely flat. You leave it in water for about an hour or so and they grow like that. But a neat thing about the peat pellets is you can just take them right out of the tray and plant them directly into the ground. Either way is a great way to do it. There's a bazillion ways you can plant seeds, but I have just found that the cellular trays work the best for me. All right. All right, you guys. So I hope that gives you a real simplified idea as to what I do to start seeds this early in the year. It's can be very discouraging when you've got day after day after day of pouring rain, but I'm seeing a break coming up this week, and I can't wait to get out here and start cleaning up. Something else you definitely should be doing here during the month of February is any fruit trees that need pruning, your rose bushes, just pruning in general. This is a perfect time of the year to do it before the leaves come on, because you can actually see what it is you're doing. Just be really careful about bloom times. Just know when your plants should be blooming. And if it's real early spring, then hold off pruning them until after they're done blooming. A lot of confusion over hydrangeas and when to prune those. Basically, if you stick with the rule that you prune them right after they bloom, you'll be safe. Um, Hydrangeas can get very confusing for people, but I'm all about keeping it simple. And the best thing for you to do is just make sure to prune them right after they're done flowering. But there is some light pruning and things that you can do on hydrangeas right now, here in the late winter, early spring. So yeah, pruning, fertilizing. After all the rain we've had this winter, now's a good time to get out there and start laying down fertilizer. Of course, cleaning up the beds and just getting ready. Edging the beds is another great thing to do at this time of the year because the ground is soft and it's easy to deal with. So, okay, there we go. All right, I'm going to leave what I'm covering in my next video as a surprise because right now we're receiving in so many new plants and so many things, and I just got to figure out what I want to talk about first when it comes to putting plants in the ground. All right, you guys, I hope you got something out of this video and this helped you quite a bit. Always go to your local nurseries and ask them questions and refer to them when you are wondering what to put in the ground, how to plant it, what to use. That's what your local nurseries are there for. They're professionals at this kind of thing, so go in there and I'm sure they'll be more than happy to give you the information you're looking for if I haven't given you enough here in this video. Okay, and if you'd like to see more updates and see what's going on, by all means hit subscribe. Hit the notification bell down at the bottom, and that will let you know when my next new video has come out. You can always sign up for our email newsletter, which will be coming out once I have this video complete. You can just go to sunnycrestnursery.com, sign up for our email. I'll be trying to farm out as many newsletters over the next 6 to 8 months as I possibly can. They're just chock full of information, as well as some of my videos that I'm doing here. Just to keep you up to date and keep you up to speed as to what you can be doing here in the Northwest. All right, you guys. Hope you're having a fabulous day, and we'll talk soon. Bye.